Hey everybody, so I am back today for a Heresy Hump Day again, and today I've got pretty much mostly Warhammer, both Age of Sigmar and 40k stuff to talk about today, and I put Awesome Hobby Day in the title because I'm not sure if some of you remember, but I had like one that was called like Bad Hobby Day, exclamation points, like the beginning of September, and that was just when I'd had like a day where things just weren't going right for me on multiple fronts, and I just was getting frustrated with stuff. I think it had to do with sculpting at one point, I don't remember. But yeah, I just had a really good hobby day the other day. It was like a day or two ago, and it's kind of lasted with me. Part of it is I was really enjoying painting some historicals, for those of you that may have saw the recent showcase vid I put up for the French Indian War stuff. I really enjoyed painting up some of those French, and I've been wanting to, particularly after doing those Gentlemen and Ladies, I've been having a taste for wanting to do more of my French Indian War stuff, and so that was a lot of fun. And coming off of that and really being happy about that stuff, I knew I had a lot of other stuff in line that I wanted to do. Now I'm right in the middle of, I shouldn't say in the middle, but we're right in the beginning of Spooky Oktoberfest, and so I had mentioned that I needed to maybe put that demon on a base because I just felt like he'd already fell over once and snapped the sword, and I had to pin it when just trying to, I think I was priming it. I'm not sure what I was doing, honestly. I think I was cleaning it up or something, but so I went to my local game store and I picked up a GW base, and I actually got just a large circular base that I believe the actual Bloodthirster is on. Now, that model's a lot taller than this one, and so I don't know if this is the right size base this should be on. I think the Bloodthirster model stands quite a bit taller, but I think shoulder-wise, I don't know for sure, but I think they're fairly comparable. I mean, this guy is just sort of crouching down. I could be wrong on that because I don't have a great reference. I'm just sort of looking at the box and trying to eye it. But when I put this guy on here, right, and I initially put him and glued him right in the center, I thought, this isn't right. There's just this, like blanket inch around him crouching down that you really can't do a whole lot with. It just feels a little out of place. And I started thinking about like what I wanted to put on there. I initially was going to put this is the avatar of Cain, and and I have pieces left over from when he was actually broken, and there were parts gone, and I was gonna maybe have him chopped up on the ground like he died. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought, I didn't want to transform into a full-blown diorama, and I didn't want to take the focus off the demon. And so I was going through my sprues, and I realized that I had a Dire Avenger Exarch that I was planning on building at one point, but never did. And he was a spare. And I thought, that would be so cool to have like a hero in the form of a Dire Avenger Exarch taking on this demon just kind of at the bottom of the base. Now, I think it's small enough that I could just use the demon in battle as if I wanted to, but big enough that, cool enough that, kind of looks like a little diorama too. I thought this would be really cool. Like, I'm not trying to persecute the Eldar by having a guy that's starting... I do have him starting to get battered, like down, like, he's not in a winning position, but he's still sort of defiant and fighting, to the bitter end against this Bloodthirster. These aren't glued down yet, but I was going to put, like... I wanted to make him tricked out as, like, kind of a really cool Dire Avenger hero, and so normally I wouldn't put, like, every gun or sword imaginable, on him, but I liked that he had the shimmer shield. I gave him I believe it's called the Dire Sword. It's been a while since I usually always use the pole arm, the power, I think they call it a power weapon, even though, like, I always wondered why that was, that the pole arm is always called the power weapon, the long pole arm. I usually, if I'm going melee, would go the pole arm and the shimmer shield. I don't think I have one that's magnetized, but I don't typically use this, but I just like the way it looks. So I have him with another hand-to-hand weapon on his shoulder right here. like a shuriken pistol that's on the ground, that's been sort of fallen or batted aside, and he's got his sword up, defiant, and the flag I literally snapped off his back, and I'm going to have it on the ground. And what I ended up doing, what took most of the work, is I actually cut a leg off, and then I cut where the knee is and the shin and the foot, and basically reposed all of this so he could be standing, kind of going forward, and with one leg kind of stepping up a bit, and not having a wide stance like he typically is, but just kind of moving forward. In this case, he's moving forward but like away, and his torso I tilted a little bit this way to just be kind of tilting towards this rock, his hands on the rock as he's trying to basically get some stability to continue this fight. So with the Bloodthirster and the positioning of it, basically he's just sort of looming over him with his chopper demon sword, like ready to just kind of come down on him. So I actually got really excited when I thought of this idea, and as it started working out, I'm sitting there with a razor saw, like cutting the legs off and doing all this stuff. I'm thinking, I hope this works out. I only got one of these. I was really excited about it, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. Now another thing I did is I had an old couple of sticks of milliput that didn't work out so great when I did my sculpting, but I kind of wanted to work with it a little bit more, but it also was kind of old, not, probably in the greatest shape, and so not the greatest way to use milliput, like on a base like this. It's kind of an expensive way to deal with a base. Like, I would probably use plaster and other things more often, but yeah, I used the milliput, and I actually, despite it being, maybe not the most ideal way I would want to use milliput, it actually worked out really good for this. So it's hard to see because this is milliput white, but I've cut basically some like little jagged cuts in the ground where you could almost have like lava or something, and I have some outjuts of rock, like kind of like the one he's standing on, and then a prominent one. There's some raised areas here. It's not flat by any means, and I have some rocks here that he's sort of got his hand on one of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint him at the end, or during it, but I'm going to put him on at the end, because I'm going to be using some airbrushing on this guy, so I don't want him there, and so I will pull him off to paint. Now, it's not because, I paint so much Bieltan because that's my army, and it has nothing to do with not wanting to have like a Bieltan guy, being killed by a demon. I actually considered doing the Bieltan, for this, because it's like my favorite Eldar army, but because I've never painted another group, I then decided that I would either do the actual proper colors for the Dire Avengers, in the Exarch, so that would be a blue, or I would do like Samhan, so just something I've not done before, and I was thinking about it. And I think what I'm going to do is just go for the classic Dire Avenger look, like the blue, for this guy, and so I think that'll be really cool. So I'm actually looking forward to painting him up, because I haven't been painting as much Eldar lately, as much as the demon. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I think it just, I don't know, I'm just quite excited about this. And so part of my awesome hobby day was just envisioning this and just getting really excited about it. I got so excited that when I went down to my local game store to buy this, I thought, you know what, I need a good Horus Heresy book. I've basically been skipping around. I've read most of the first 10 books. This might fall towards the end of that or in the beginning of 11 to 20, I'm not sure, but it's in that range. And I've never read this one. This is the Ultramarines book, No Fear, so it's got Robert Gilliman. But it also has the Word Bearers with Lorgar in it as well. Now, I've really come to like both the Ultramarines and the Word Bearers through the stories that I've read of them. I've read more of the Word Bearers stuff, because that's really what, I've read the first, the first heretic, and some of the others that feature the word bearers. And so I'm really excited about reading this one because of it, and I really get inspired to read these books. And it's written by Dan Abnett, and he's one of my favorites. He wrote the first one, Horus Heresy, or Horus Rising, sorry. Anything to insert heresy into the name. So I guess I'm really excited about reading this. Lorgar is like my favorite Primarch, I would say. There was a time, and I still struggle a bit, because Magnus and Lorgar are my favorite two chapter Primarchs. And it's funny, I was just thinking about this now. Over time, it's become Lorgar more and more, and it's went a little bit down with Magnus. And I think part of that is I've read a lot of 40k stuff, and lately what I've been reading more about Magnus is his stuff after he's fallen, so a more recent incarnation of the Primarch, after he's been, demonified or chaosified. And my perception of the two, and I apologize to those that are not into the background for 40k, won't go on too long, but my perception of the two of them is that in a lot of ways I really feel that Magnus has become weaker in some ways. Even if he hasn't become weaker, he's portrayed, and his situation has become more dire and weaker through becoming aligned with chaos and falling. Whereas Lorgar, where he came from and then what he became and what he did with it, became much stronger, like with chaos. And I always really liked Lorgar because he was one of these characters that, he was perceived by everybody as being the lesser of all of the Primarchs, as far as weaker in a lot of ways. Perhaps better from a statesman-like, statescraft perspective, but never considered to be the most martial, most powerful of the Primarchs. But when he became, he fell to chaos, and he absorbed that sort of gifts and knowledge and those things bestowed upon him. He did amazing things. If you read the books, he basically saved one of his brother Primarchs from a Warhound Titan coming down, stepping on him, and, he's just did physical feats, he healed himself, he became something altogether much better when he fell. Whereas Magnus, even if he became technically more powerful, I don't know if that's true or not, all the stories I've read after him falling, he's always losing, ever since that moment he lost to Lehman Russ in the Space Wolves, it's just been a downhill ever since then. He's never had a good moment that I know of since then. And so honestly, I kind of thought about it, and it crystallized with me, and I felt my favorite pre-heresy Primarch is Magnus. I really liked him up until that point. And then my favorite post-heresy Primarch is Lorgar. And he's just gotten better and better, in the stories and with what he's done as a character. Now he's portrayed. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of a... And so I'm actually really hoping to paint both of those Primarchs. I've never painted a Primarch yet. Magnus isn't available yet, but I'm guessing he's going to be available pretty soon by Forge World. And Lorgar was the first one out, and I think I'm going to get him at one point and paint him up just to have him. And I was toying with the idea of adding some word bearers to my chaos at one point, because I really like the word bearers. All right, that's enough for 40k. And so I'm reading this. I'm going to really enjoy it. Inspired. Got a little bit of the 40k bug with creativity and painting and stuff with Spooky Oktoberfest. So having fun with it. I'm going to pan to the next table and show some AOS stuff. So, for Warhammer Fantasy, what I'm going to be doing real soon, outside of the Spooky Oktoberfest project, my other main project I'll be doing after I paint this one up, or even potentially during, is my Orcs and Goblins. And in particular, it's going to be just Goblins at first, is what I'm working on. You guys have seen this before. Just a little bit of an update. There are a couple of new things, but it's really, I'm kind of kicking off that this is my next main project that I'm working on. I'm really excited. I did actually go out recently and pick some other things up. I had a little bit of a surprise. I actually thought I had 3 units of goblins already, and I went out and bought another box because I just couldn't help myself when I saw them at my local store. And it turns out that I actually only have 2 of these with another, so I have 60 goblins. I thought I had 80. That was kind of, in some ways, I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, because I have to paint what's in front of me, you know, right now. And I thought I was maybe painting 80 at once. I guess I've only bumped up to 60. And so 60 goblins it is. I'm not sure. I thought I had 2 units of archers and 1 of spearmen with shields. I'm not sure, now that I only have 1 of each, which one I should go with. Or I'm almost tempted to do 10 of each with that box, so I have a solid unit of 30 that I could potentially do in AOS with each. That almost seems like a better deal. Interested in your guys' thoughts on that, who may even play goblins in AOS. That'd be great. There's very little info on YouTube of folks that just focus on particularly generic goblins, the non-night goblin type, but goblins in general for AOS. I've just not seen, I've looked around and did searches, and I've just not seen anybody that's sort of like the go-to goblin guy. That sounds good. I don't think I'm focused enough to be that, but if I was going to be a go-to AOS guy, I think I would be the go-to goblin guy. That sounds really good. I have to think about that. So I have my war boss, who's a goblin war boss on a wolf. I love this guy. He's an old metal character. I absolutely love him. He just seems very manipulative and sinister and goblin type, and like that's exactly what I want. I want hordes of goblins that are just sort of cowards, except when they're in big groups, and like, I don't know, just that whole goblin thing. I just think it's going to be so much fun to play. I've got the old metal goblin warlock, or mage. And to add to it, I've got the new plastic, I like the fact that it's plastic, kit of the goblin mage. And what does it say? It's a shaman. I apologize. I'm still new to this. Never played these guys before. And in order to build the kind of, I'm doing the Git mob, so for those of you, they have like a type of unit where you can get benefits if you actually go with a certain type of formation. Since I'm focused on the Git mob kind of style, generic goblins, I needed to get, it cost me $18 for three, and I've got 3 boxes of them. I got the nasty skulkers. Now these are all metal as opposed to the resin ones I think they have now. So I got 3 of those. These are all the nasty skulkers. I'm quite excited about that because I prefer to work with metal than fine cast. And so I'm really happy about that, getting the metal ones. And so yeah, I've got lots of other goblins, and some of them don't fit with the Git mob. I have like the spider rider ones, and I have wolf riders, which I will be doing in the future. They're not here, but I've got actual, like the actual wolf riders, which will definitely be part of this and part of the Git mob too. But this is like my first push to get something painted up, and it's primarily these 3 boxes with these guys, just singlets just thrown in. I kind of figured, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Like I have, for painting, I have an old Citadel Goblin Green. But the problem is, I don't know that I can easily get this anymore. And I don't think that this isn't in the current range. And so, as much as this made sense for me to go with a base paint of this, I've not decided how I'm going to do it yet, but when I was at my local store, I picked up this, which is brighter. It's Game Color Scorpina Green. But I don't mind starting a little brighter, and I tend to mix my paints a lot anyway. So I was thinking of either starting out with the mix of this and another green I have that's a bit darker to just tone it down, or just start with this. In the end, I was going to go bright with these guys. I know everybody has different thoughts on orcs and goblins. Like, some people like to do the very cartoony, bright colored stuff, and some people like to do more realistic kind of look. My D&D sort of orcs, I did the more what I would consider to be a more realistic look. These guys I want to be bright and colorful and cartoony. And so I'm going to be doing like mixtures of green with yellow, like, you know, to highlight. I just don't know how dark I'm going to... Like, I will be washing them with some green washes too, and then working up from those. So I don't know yet whether I'm going to start darker or whether I'm going to start with this. Either way, it'll likely be a mixture of this with something else to bring it a little darker if I do that. Thoughts there too, like, you know, it's just a matter of opinion. I'm kind of interested in people's opinions. I don't know that I'll go with it, but particularly if you guys have done this before, you know, I'm always interested to see what other folks are doing. So yeah, I think that is it. I just, you know, like, I'm kind of, another awesome hobby day was just kind of getting this stuff and getting it together, and, you know, after finishing my French, just like doing, like, I've got this little painting station so I can go upstairs, and when I've got my kids around in the evenings, I can still, like, I can start working on these. So I'm looking forward to that. So really excited. I'm excited to play Age of Sigmar. Really excited with some of the French and Indian war stuff that I'm doing right now. And I love Spooky Oktoberfest this year, and getting a little bit back into 40K again. Just, I've got the 40K bug. I mean, like, I always will. Regardless of how much I'm playing the standard game or not. I quite like it, and so this is a lot of fun too. Alright, everybody. I hope everybody is having a good week and enjoying going down the slope on the hump of the week. Take care.